Okay. So, as usual, we're all gathered here today to listen to another exposition of the Lord Buddha's teaching. And before we commence today's sermon, let us all take a moment to remind ourselves how extremely fortunate we are to be students and disciples of the Great Master, the Perfect One, the most magnificent One, the supremely enlightened One, the unvanquished One, the undefeated One, the infinitely compassionate One. It is none other than the Lord Buddha that we speak of. We are privileged to be his students, to be his disciples, to be those who have received that which is his greatest gift to mankind, to all beings, and that is the Dhamma, the only medicine that exists to relieve all sentient beings from endless suffering. Reminding ourselves of how extremely fortunate we are, let us take a moment to pay our respects, to pay veneration to the Great Master, and let us do this by upstanding, reciting the stanzas that were once uttered by someone just like us, a long time ago, in the time of the Buddha, someone who was of a different ideology, who followed a different path, who had a different teacher. And then everything changed when he met the Buddha. He realized the errors in his ways, understood the Dhamma, and when he was questioned by his previous teacher, "Have you given up on me now? Do you betray me now? Who are you loyal to? Whose student are you? Who is your master?" This was his reply. Let us all be upstanding to recite these stanzas, take refuge in the Noble Triple Gem, observe the precepts, and continue with today's proceedings. Dhirasya vigata mohasya abhinna khilasya vijita vijayasya anighasya susamachittasya buddhasilassa sadhupanyassa vesantarassa vimalassa bhagavato thassa savako hamasmi akatankathissa tutsitassa vantalokamissassa muditassa kata samanassa manujassa antima sarirassa narassa anupamassa virajassa bhagavato thassa savako hamasmi asansayassa kulassa venaikassa sarati varassa anuttarassa ruchira dhammassa nikhankassa abhasakarassa manachidassa virassa bhagavato thassa savako hamasmi nisabhassa apameyassa gambhirassa monapatassa Khemankarasa vedassa dhammatassa sangutattassa sangatigassa muttassa bhagavato thassa savako hamasmi. Nagassa pantasenassa khina sanyojanassa muttassa patimantakassa dhonassa pannadhajassa vitaragassa dantassa nippapanchassa bhagavato tassa savako hamasmi. Isi sattamassa akuhassa tevijjassa brahmapattassa nahatakassa padakassa passadhassa viditavedassa purindadassa sakhassa bhagavato tassa savako hamasmi. Ariyassa bhavitattassa pattipattassa veyakaranassa satimato vipassissa anabhinatassa noapanatassa anejassa vasipattassa bhagavato tassa savako hamasmi. Ariyassa bhavitattassa pattipattassa veyakaranassa satimato vipassissa anabhinatassa noapanatassa anejassa vasipattassa bhagavato tassa savako hamasmi. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Okay, and now to observe the precepts and seek refuge in the Noble Triple Gem. Please repeat all together and after me. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Saranaгаmanang sampunnang. Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Adinnadana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Kamesu miccachara veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Musavada Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami. Surameraya Majjapama Datthana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami. Tisaranena Saddhing Panchasilang Dhammang Sadhukang Surakkhitam Katva Appamadena Sampadeta. Okay, you may all now be seated. Okay, so before we begin, let us also take a moment to invite all the celestial beings, countless beings in these 10,000 world systems, reminding ourselves that among them will be those who will have been parents to us, siblings, spouses, children, teachers and friends, acquaintances. In this long journey in samsara, those who will have helped us, supported us, assisted us in numerous ways, as best as they could. Therefore, we owe them a debt of gratitude. We have an obligation, a duty, to offer to them the best that we have, as they once did for us. Today we have received the gift that excels all gifts, and that is the gift of the Dhamma. We have also embarked on a journey, the only journey that frees one entirely, completely, once and for all, from all suffering. Let us remind ourselves that these beings who once helped us to free ourselves from suffering as best they could in the circumstances that we were in, today deserve our help, our support, and that is why we invite them, as we are grateful to all of them. So, as I now make this invitation, I ask you to extend this invitation in your hearts and in your minds out to all of them. Invite them to join us and witness this meritorious deed. Let us take a moment to remind ourselves that among them will be those who may today be born in the woeful plane as a result of deeds that they would have committed. However, they were done through ignorance, as they had no one to show them the path, no one to show them right from wrong. But today, we have this gift, the gift of Dhamma. Today, we have the power, the knowledge, the insight, the wisdom to show them the path, to guide them. Just as they once did for us, let us today extend this invite out to all of them and invite them to witness this meritorious deed. May they rejoice in the merits that they may earn today, and may by the power of these merits they be able to free themselves from those woeful planes and be born in the blissful plane. And for all beings in the blissful plane, may they listen to the teaching of the Buddha, understand it, comprehend it, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. So, with an abundance of compassion and loving kindness emanating from the bottom of your hearts, invite them all, wishing for nothing other than their well-being. Invite them to join us and engage in this life-changing opportunity, as it has done for you, for me, and for all of us. Samanta Chakravalesu Atra Gachantu Devata Saddhammang Munirajasa Sunantu Sagga Mokkadam Dhamma Savana Kalo Ayang Bhadanta Dhamma Savana Kalo Ayang Bhadanta Dhamma Savana Kalo Ayang Bhadanta. Okay. So, with everyone present here, let us now take a moment to remove certain obstacles from our path as we are about to continue on our journey and make the next step towards our destination, towards our goal. And you'll all know what obstacles I speak of. These are the consequences of our misdeeds, the consequences of our ignorance, of having been in the association of ignoble, immoral people. As in their association, our minds were defiled with desire, aversion, and delusion, and we were blinded with ignorance and attachment. And in our ignorance, in our delusion, countless times we would have offended, insulted, desecrated, reviled the noble ones. Today, the very values that we try to instill within ourselves, those very values we once desecrated. And therefore, it is today incredibly difficult for us to instill those values within ourselves, within our minds, unless we accept and acknowledge the errors in our ways and seek forgiveness with humility and humbleness in our minds and in our hearts before we make progress. So, let us now take a moment to do that. For any thoughts, words, or actions of revile, desecration, insult, or slander that I might have directed towards the noble ones, the Samma Sambuddhas, the Pacheka Buddhas, Arahata Buddhas, Anagamis, Sakridagamis, Sotapannas, be they on the path of having attained the fruits, as well as the Buddha's ministry, the Sambuddhashasana. May I be forgiven once and for all, as today I seek this forgiveness, not for the sake of it, but as I truly and humbly and wholeheartedly agree, acknowledge, and accept the errors in my ways, and I promise to myself to never conduct body, speech, or action, or thoughts in that manner ever again. So let us all take a moment to do that right now. Okay, and finally, before we proceed, let us all make a firm resolve. May through the course of this sermon, if there have thus far remained gaps in my knowledge, in my understanding, in my comprehension, which have kept me from achieving the first noble state of Sotapanna, a stream enterer, may through the course of this sermon I be able to fulfill such gaps and achieve that first peak of enlightenment. And for all among us who may have already achieved that noble state, may through the course of this sermon you be able to fulfill the subsequent stages, and may we all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. With that resolve in mind, I invite you all now to prepare yourselves to listen to this sermon. Okay. I would quite like for us to pick up where we left off last week, as I appreciate that most of you, if not all of you, would have gone back, perhaps listened to that sermon at least once over, to ensure that you have brushed up on all the basics. And that was what last week was mostly about. And of course, we did discuss a few new and interesting ways of reflection, contemplating on the truth that is reality, and a whistle stop tour on quite a few fundamental concepts wanting we talked about, fear and grief we discussed. So I'm sure you're all looking forward to where do we go from here on. There are also a couple of other things I'd like to talk to you about, but we'll see how it goes depending on how we do for time. As of course, you know, I am currently in quarantine or quarantine, whichever way you prefer to pronounce it. And this has allowed me some good time to practice, some very good time to reflect on the Dhamma, focus a lot more time on my meditation as I'm semi relieved from some of the duties I have to conduct as one of the senior monks at the monastery. And my fellow monks have been awfully kind to me, and they have looked after quite a lot of the duties and responsibilities that I would normally have to carry out. So that has given me time to focus, reflect, and contemplate, which is always welcome. So even we have downtime. But of course, even when I'm terribly busy, when I'm not in quarantine, I still have no regrets whatsoever. And the reason you know, the reason for that being, I have no regrets because there is nothing I do on a daily basis about which, on reflection, I feel sorry, I feel disappointed, I feel sad with myself. Because no matter what I do, it is all done for the good of myself and others. Everything that is done contributes, however large or small, to my nibbana and that of others. Today, I am in no way compelled to do things that are contrary to those purposes and to those values. That is one of the best things about living an ordained life as a monk. There's no one, quite literally no one, who today has the power to compel me, to force me, to manipulate me into doing something that goes against the Buddha's teaching. Everything I do, I'm able today to focus on those two purposes: my salvation and that of yours. That was one of the things I reflected on quite a bit. How much I relish this life that I'm able to live today. As a free person, as a free man, being able to do only that which is beneficial to mankind, which is beneficial to all beings, never once having to even consider, do I, don't I, as I am never presented with those conundrums, those dilemmas, where I have to either choose to do the right thing or the wrong thing. I'm never presented with such opportunities or with such circumstances, would probably be the better word. Isn't that alone enough for one to consider going forth, living this free life? I never have to consider, do I kill, don't I kill? Do I save a life or do I take a life? Is never something I have to consider. Although I must admit, in my lay life, those were things that I had to consider. When you have an infestation of rodents, of insects, termites, whatever, these are considerations that you will have to make. And to this day, I'm sure you still have to. Most of you at least. Do I take it or do I leave it? Does that really belong to me, or is that only partly, or am I just trying to convince myself that it is mine? These are things that used to haunt me, trouble me, bother me back in my lay life, but not anymore. Gosh, how I love this life. Just the life of being free, just the life of just enjoying and thriving in this gift that the Buddha has given me, in this wonderful opportunity that my teacher has afforded me. Man, I'm lucky. I'm so fortunate. Never once do I have to consider, do I lie or do I say the truth? Is that lying or is that bending the truth? These are not things that I have to consider. Should I resort to harsh speech? He's simply not getting it. Maybe I should go more ballistic, more fierce, more harsh. These are not considerations or concerns of mine anymore. Sexual misconduct is not even, oh, good Lord, that's the last thing on my mind. Never even presented with the opportunity, let alone a choice. I don't have to lie. I don't have to steal. I don't have to get angry. This is life. This is the good life. I know I digress. This is not what I was going to talk to you about, but I hope you'll forgive me for enjoying moments like this when I reflect on what I have received today and how great it is just to be a monk. How wonderful it is. I hope and I am resolved that this will be my last life and I work towards that. So if that turns out to be the truth, then I would wish no other way to live my last life in this samsara than the life that I live today, bearing the robes that were gifted to me by the Lord Buddha himself, an alms bowl, and that is all I have to my name, my three robes and my alms bowl. Everything else is an additional benefit. None of that belongs to me. It is an additional benefit which I must always remain prepared to give up, hand over, hand back. The only things that no one's going to take away from me are my robes and my alms bowl. Just the things that were presented to me, given to me, I requested, I beseeched on the day of my ordination. And this is what my teacher gave me, three robes and an alms bowl. And he said, that's it. Learn to survive on that. Consider anything and everything else an additional benefit. Don't expect that. If you receive it, you will receive it. If you don't, then you don't. Learn to live with that truth. Learn to live with that reality. Some people find that terribly worrying. Good gosh, how can you live a life with such uncertainty? How can you live a life going day by day, not knowing what you're going to be, or if you're going to have breakfast the following day? How can you live a life not knowing whether you're going to have a roof over your head tomorrow? That someone might come and ask for it, and you must decide. It is not a decision, actually, really. You must walk out and hand it over to them. upon request, upon demand. What sort of life is that? So much uncertainty. How can you have peace of mind? How can you sleep at night? People have asked me, people used to ask me, even before I decided to come into robes, and I'm sure people still have these questions in their mind. Sometimes they just don't ask them out of politeness. But these are things that bother them, these are things that worry them. And to these people, my response is, I'd like you to flip that on its head. How free you are, not having to worry about what you're going to have for breakfast tomorrow. I lived for over 25, 6 years of my life, every night going to bed thinking, what am I going to have for breakfast tomorrow? Will there be breakfast? Who's going to fix my breakfast? What time? All these things. But today, I don't have to worry about that. I'm free. Will there be a roof over my head? I don't have to worry about that. But it didn't used to be the case. End of the month, you'd look forward to your wages coming through, your bank statements, your bank account, just making sure that you had enough for your mortgage payments, you had enough for your rent payment, you had enough to pay the bills, the utilities, to pay your taxes, to pay your road tax, to pay your car tax, everything. Pay your council tax, all of that. You remember, I used to recall one of my pastimes used to be going online. I had my own little spreadsheet where I used to budget every month. You know what I'm like, right? So that's what I used to do. I used to budget my finances well in advance. Very neat and tidy spreadsheets, very organized. My incomings and my outgoings, and what I would save, what I would invest, what I would put aside for a rainy day, what I would put aside for my parents, for the in laws, and so on, for charity. All that had to be balanced. To two decimal places. Yes, yes, that precise. To the cent, to the penny. That used to be one of my pastimes. Opening up that spreadsheet at the end of every month, making sure things were going to plan, and seeing how much I could save here, there, and set aside, put into long term investments, medium, short term investments. And all that time I thought I was enjoying myself. Little did I know, little did I know that there was a life that awaited me where I didn't have to any of that. Folks, I wish you could see my face right now. This is the good life. I'm free from all that burden. I'm free from all that baggage. I'm free from all that rat race of a life, making ends meet, looking forward to the end of the month, looking forward to the paycheck, looking forward to the backs transfers, looking forward to the direct debits in the standing orders, looking forward to how the investments were performing. Was it going up? Was it going down? Is it time to buy, hold, or sell? Studying the markets. I thought that was the good life. Little did I know that all of that was just a cumbersome burden over my shoulders. Little did I know that with everything that I would add on to my life, I would attach as an extension to my life, would bring with it a whole baggage of trouble, fear, grief, worry, dismay, disappointment, disaster, destruction, and despair. Today I'm free from all that. Today I don't have to worry about if I'm going to have a meal tomorrow. I'll wake up in the morning, if I do, pick up my alms bowl, don my robes, and just go for a walk. I can go from door to door, see if people have any leftovers that they might be willing to share with me. I don't need to cook for myself. I don't need to decide what am I going to have tonight, because last night it was it was broccoli and spinach and brinjals, and today it's got to be something else altogether, because you can't have the same thing 2 nights over, can you? Particularly not when you have others around you and they expect something else, something different, they expect variety every day. I don't have any of those worries anymore. Living a life without expectation, oh, it's amazing. It's so wonderful. It's so free. It's so joyful. It's exhilarating. It's free. I'm ever so grateful to all of you. You bring us alms, you offer it to us, and thank you very much for that. What that means is I don't have to put aside even that time. I don't have to exert myself even by that much. Even the time I save doing that, having to go around on alms, I can use up towards my salvation and that of yours. I can put that time aside to think about new ways of helping other people, how we can reach other communities that we haven't touched as yet. I can put that time aside to learn another language, so we can get the teaching of the Buddha out to more people and help more broken hearts to mend. I can help save people's lives. So thank you. We are grateful. Of course, I know you don't do this expecting me to be grateful to you. I know you do this because you want merit. And that is how it should be. You appreciate the value of the Mahasangha, their virtues, their greatness, and it is with that in mind you make your offerings. But nonetheless, we are grateful. However, if the day would come where I wake up in the morning and none of our devotees have made any offerings, everyone's decided that that's enough of us feeding them for free, let them go and find their own meals. Well, if that day shall come, I doubt it ever will, but if that day shall come, well, that is what the Buddha taught me to expect. Everything else, anything else over and above that, he said, was an additional benefit. I don't expect additional benefits. I only expect what I deserve to expect. I'll pick up my alms bowl, put it into my carrier, and I'll don my robes and I'll step out. Walk about in the village, and if they don't like me walking around here, then I'll walk into the stroll into the next village until, as far as my legs can carry me, I have time till noon. I'm sure someone will have something, some leftovers. Even if it's something that they've decided to give to their dog. Everyone in the family has eaten, but some leftovers they've decided to give it to their dog. And so they see a monk coming by and they think to themselves, well, you know what, maybe today we'll offer it to the monk and we'll arrange something else for the dog. Still, all I need is something to put out my hunger. And for that, I'm forever grateful. What a free life this is. No one's out to get me, no threats, because I don't have anything for anyone to take from me. What do I have? All I have are my alms bowl and my three robes. If ever someone would stop me in the middle of the street, a burglar, and they'd hold a gun to my head, all I can say is, sorry, sir, I'm really sorry to disappoint you. All I have is this metal alms bowl. If you wish, you may take that with you. I have these robes on me. If you take that, then I'm going to be naked, and I doubt you'd want that. You'd want to see that. And I'm really sorry to disappoint you, but I simply don't have anything to offer you. Perhaps if you're hungry, then I have some food in my alms bowl, which was kindly offered to me by some devotees on the way. Perhaps I can give you some of that. Would you care to sit down? Maybe share a meal with me? That is all I can say. That is all I have to say. Tell me I'm not free. Isn't this the good life? I remember living a lay life. I'd look forward to a long weekend. We'd book a holiday. I'd book a hotel or a rest house, a guest house, whatever, and we'd go and usually it would be by a stream, a river, a lake, and we'd go sightseeing. We used to go and enjoy the greenery. I enjoy the woods, the flora, the fauna, the trees, right, away from the hustle and the bustle of a concrete forest and into a true evergreen forest. That is where we used to go on holiday. I used to look forward to those sort of experiences. Once every blue moon, you used to get one of those things. And you know what? Today, folks, I live in a forest. Those days, I used to work hard so I could earn my money, so I could book myself a holiday. And I used to get in my car and I used to drive for miles on end to get to a forest, a waterfall, a river, a stream, a lake. I'd love to dip in it, enjoy the cool water, enjoy the breeze, enjoy some fresh air. And then at the end of the day, at the end of the weekend, I used to think to myself, oh, well, all good things must come to an end. And I used to pack up and get back in my car and drive back home. And the following morning, I'd have to wake up at 4 o'clock and get myself ready to go back to work so I could earn again to go on another holiday. And today, I live in a forest. Today, the birds and bees are my friends. Today, there's a stream that flows just a few 100 yards away from the kuti in which I live, a stream into which I can get into anytime I wish. Today I only breathe fresh air. Today the birds wake me up in the morning. Their bird songs, the chirps, the tweets, or a different kind of tweet to what used to wake me up. In my lay life, yes, it was still tweets that woke me up. But today it's a different kind of tweet that wakes me up. In my lay life, I used to look forward to the weekend so I could spend my time with the people I enjoyed being with. I enjoyed hanging around. People who were my friends, people who weren't out to get me, but rather who were there to look after me. People who used to put aside time out of their lives to make me happy, to ensure that I lived in joy, I was happy, and I was looked after. Today, I live among them. Today, no one's trying to one better me. No one's trying to mock me. No one's trying to ridicule me. No one's trying to undermine me. No one's trying to make me feel so small. Today, I live among people who treat each other with utmost mutual respect. I only hear kind words, gentle words. Every time you see someone face to face, I'm today greeted with, May the Noble Triple Gem bless you. Today, I live among people who share, who care. Such affection, such love, such caring, such a brotherhood. I often ask myself, what have I done to deserve all this? Whatever might I have done to deserve all this? Does such goodness exist in this world? Can someone do so much good to deserve all that I have received today? I mean, what sort of meritorious deed might that be? I still ask myself, what sort of meritorious deed might it be that I have done to deserve all this? To live among some fantastic people, the kindest hearts, who are always there for you when you need them. Because no one's busy living a rat race of a life. There's no one-upmanship among them, no wickedness, no cruelty, no hypocrisy, no jealousy. Does it sound like a fantasy to you? Well, guess what? It's a reality to me. This is the good life. This so is the good life. And whenever you have a problem, whenever you have something that's worrying you, something troubling you, something in your mind, you have so many people you can go and talk to. And each and every one of them will offer you something solid, something good, something sturdy, something really substantial, something really meaningful. No one's going to say, oh, let's just forget about it. Let's go watch a movie. Right? And then we can just get over it. Because today I understand that all of that is just nonsense. That was just digging things in and burying them in the sand. The slightest breeze, the slightest wind would bring it back up. But today, it's very different. The solutions I receive, the answers I get to my problems, to my questions, oh, they're very profound. They're the truth. They're very practical. They're very effective. They're very powerful. Like water to fire. Those answers, those solutions to problems, from first application onwards, right from the first application onwards, they work their magic. And just listening to something like that, just listening to the words of my teacher, and my fellow monks, as I consult them on various matters, just listening to them, that makes me feel good. Today I don't have to have a TV in my living room. No one expects me to have one. I don't have to cook to a different menu every day. No one expects me to do that. I don't have to wear a different outfit every day. No one expects me to do that. You know what a hassle it is, right? Just deciding what you're going to wear to the office tomorrow. Right? Today is a Sunday. You know you're going to have to go to work tomorrow. Right? Can I bother you with something? Can I? What are you going to wear tomorrow? Assuming you don't have a uniform. Well, even if you did, right? Is it in the washing now, or have you ironed it? What's the deal? Oh yeah, ironing. Oh, oh, ironing. I remember to this date, folks. When I decided and made my mind up, right, I'm going to ordain. I remember counting down each time I had to iron my clothes for the following day to wear to work. Each time I did that, I used to count down. So you be T minus 60. So that's what? 2 months to ordination. 2 months to the last day I pack in, right? And get on that flight and back home to Sri Lanka. Free from all that. T minus 60. I thought to myself, I only need to do this. I don't need to iron my clothes. Another 60 days. And then the following morning, or the following night, I used to think to myself, just 59 more days, I got to do this, and that's it. I had to keep the creases. Had to be particular whether it was long sleeves or short sleeves. Then you had dress down Fridays. Oh, what about polishing your shoes? You enjoy that? Today, I don't even wear shoes. I don't have to worry anymore about whether my socks match. I don't have to worry anymore about which tie to go with which shirt. Is it buttons or is it cufflinks? I don't need to worry about any of that anymore. God, I'm free. I'm so free. This is the good life. 3 robes. That's it. An arms bow. That's it. Shelter for us is anything that covers me from the water when it's raining, from the sun when it's scorching, from the storms when it's blazing. That's it. That could be a cave. So be it. Right now in front of me there's a laptop and a few other things that I have to pull together to record this sermon and bring it to you. Do you know the joy I have in my mind just knowing that this laptop that's in front of me does not worry me? I'll do everything I can to protect it, to keep it safe, because it belongs to the Sambuddha Shasana and it is my duty. But it is not a burden on me. I do it happily, not with fear or worry. But that was not me when I was a layperson. I used to have a bunch of laptops, and each and every one of them, I was so worried. Fear and grief were their names. This is the good life. This is the free life. That's why it baffles me. I suppose, right? Until you experience this, you don't know what it's like. So, then I've got to say, I can only say, I feel sorry for people who are able to enjoy this, experience this, who still are undecided or who still just keep putting this off, or who have completely decided against it. I can only feel sorry for them. Then there are others, who through because of duty, obligation, responsibilities, they're not able to make that jump, come this step, take this step. Again, they have my empathy. Those who can and don't come, they have my sympathy. This is the free life. Not a thing that troubles me, not a thing that worries me. The 4 requisites. And that's the other thing. The reason I don't have to worry about will I receive a meal tomorrow is because today I understand the principle of what you give is what you get, and if you give, you shall get. So once you understand this principle, why does one have to worry about if they get? Isn't the only thing they should be worried about is, do they give? Because if you sort out your end of the bargain, of the deal, then the other end of the deal sorts itself out, doesn't it? For anyone who gives, do you think there's any reason why they should worry if they shall receive? You understand that is nonsensical. But for someone who doesn't give, someone who only collects, who only hoards, who only looks after themselves and collects and gathers and stockpiles them up for their own needs and wants, now, of course, they must always live in fear. What if? What if tomorrow someone will come and take all of this from me? What if tomorrow I don't get any more because I need all of these things? They're the kind of people who will always live in fear and grief. But for someone who understands, if you become someone who understands the principle of receiving, the science of receiving, it is science. The logic, the reasoning, the rationale behind receiving, and all you have to do is to give, then all you have to do is to give. What do you think I'm doing today? What do you think I'm doing right now? What do you think I do every day? To not just one person or two persons, but to a lot of people? Of course, you can help people. A lot of people have that as they put that forward as one of their excuses. You'll pardon me for using that word. Sometimes, people say, yes, Swaminathan, I want to become a monk, but you know what? Before I do that, I want to help a lot of people. So I'm gonna stay a lay person. I'm gonna help a lot of people, and then I'm gonna become a monk. So really, what they're saying is, Swaminathan, you don't help as many people as I do. So you know you don't understand what it's like, so let me help all these people, and then I'll come and sort of take second place. Here's my challenge to you. Can you name anyone who helps mankind and all sentient beings more than the Mahasangha does? Name one type of people who do that. Just one type. Are they doctors or lawyers? Engineers? What do you think? Teachers? Plumbers? Electricians? What? Lifeguards? Security personnel? What do you think? Pilots? Mathematicians or scientists? What do you think? Astrophysicists or microbiologists? Who do you think help mankind most? In comparison to the Mahasangha, what do you think? Hmm? Cardiologists or immunologists? Pediatricians or X ray technicians? What do you think? Who do you think help mankind more? How about all of them on one side and the Mahasangha on the other? Which way do you think this balance is going to tilt? Everyone to their own opinion. I'm not saying you have to agree with mine. Is everyone for themselves? Everyone to themselves. You can make up your own mind about things. But I'm just asking the question. So for someone to say, I would like to stick around for a bit longer and help more people, and then I'll come into robes and do my service. Personally, if you ask me, they just haven't got it yet. Think about it. People from all walks of life, right? They walk into a monastery. They walk into the temple. Why? right from the poorest of beggars to the greatest empires or emperors, the most powerful of kings, and everyone in between. They all walk into a temple. One day, someday. Why? Is that to give something or to get something? I think you know the answer. So, if you truly and genuinely want to do good to mankind, if you truly and genuinely want to apply yourself to the fullest, to the best of your ability, every waking hour, every moment, for the goodness of all sentient beings, what better place is there? This is my own opinion. This is my own humble opinion. You may disagree, and I respect that. We'll just agree to disagree on that note. Because remember, every other thing, apart from that which we receive from the Mahasangha, every other thing is a means to an end. Is a temporary fix, is a plaster of the problem. It's a patch. It is not the answer. It's just something to wade you through. Is that not the truth? I'm not just making stuff up, am I? I mean, you can all think for yourselves. You're all very intelligent people. You're all very experienced people, and you come from all walks of life. So all of the above titles that I just mentioned, occupations or fields of service to humanity, you will all represent one or more of them. Among you will be doctors and engineers and lawyers and teachers and police officers and security personnel, engineers and mathematicians and medical personnel, right? Everyone, politicians, economists, journalists, right? Everything. I'm saying, isn't everything that you give something that is simply a means to an end? Is that wrong? It would be wrong to think in that way. What you give is what is the best that you can give where you are. I mean, if you do an honest job, if you do it out of the goodness of your own heart, for the goodness of others, and if you render a selfless service, then of course you're doing a fantastic job, and well done. Without you, the world wouldn't survive. The world couldn't go on. I mean, that is one of the other questions that people pose to me. So I'm going to answer, it's all right for you to say, everyone come and ordain, but then what if everyone comes and ordains and everyone's, then you don't have any chefs, you don't have any barbers, you don't have any electricians or plumbers. How is the world going to go on? Well, I say, when did that ever happen? So they say, well, hypothetically, if that were to happen. So they add that to the justification. Hypothetically, if that were to happen, what would you say? All I have to say is, well, I'm glad that's just a hypothetical question. So then I say, well, hypothetically, let's just assume that that will never happen. Because will it? No, never. Do you ever find scientists in a room get together and plan what to do if the sun were to rise from the west? Do you? Have you ever heard of that? Was it ever published in the New Scientist? A bunch of scientists got together. I know they had a world summit somewhere, and they all, they're all scratching their heads, wondering, it's a really funny thing. I know. What if the sun rises in the west? Well, let's all get together and discuss. Have you ever heard of that? Has that ever happened? What if the sun rises in the west? Oh, true. You might find the odd YouTube video where someone, comes up hypothetically. What if the sun rises in the west? Well, then, yeah, equally you have videos on there to say, what if you were the last man alive and everyone else were women, or the other way around? You know, it's just someone's fantasy. That sort of thing, besides that, but really, really, do people ever plan for what might happen if the sun rises in the west? No. Why is that? Well, we don't need to plan for things that are never going to happen. One of the first things you learn in risk analysis and deciding on your risk mitigation strategy is to work out what is your probability and your impact, right? So the risk quantity is dependent on your probability times your impact. So where your probability is 0%, then we just discard that. We don't spend another thought considering what is your risk mitigation strategy for that in the eventuality that that risk manifests itself. We don't discuss that. One of the first things you learn in a risk class, Risk 101. So likewise, folks, do we need to plan for the day when everyone decides to go forth and become monks and nuns? That day has never happened and will never happen. There are 20 million people in Sri Lanka. I hope I've got my figures right. At last count, there were only 35,000 odd monks. 35,000 out of the entire population of Sri Lanka. You work out the math. What percentage do you think that is? %10 would be 2 million. Right? 1% would be 200,000. So just over 0.1% are monks in a country which has traditionally and has been a Buddhist country, and it is known as a primarily Buddhist country. Over, I think, if I'm not mistaken, over 90% of the population are Buddhists. And even in that environment, even in such a culture, 0.1% of the total population are monks. I think we only have about 35,000 monks in Sri Lanka. 35,000. You could fit all those monks, or each and every monk you could fit into a large town, into a large city. I think the population of a sizable city is probably greater, much greater than the total number of monks in Sri Lanka. So I don't know why or where people come up with these theories and they question what if Swaminathan said, everyone becomes a monk, then it's going to be mayhem. All I've got to say is, well, relax and take a chill pill. It's okay, don't worry. It's not going to happen. The day everyone becomes a monk, right? I will give up my robes and I'll go and become a lay person again, and I'll look after all the monks. Don't you worry. But I'm just saying, folks, if you have the opportunity, what did I ask you to do last week? Go and stand in front of the mirror and look at the person you see there, right? And particularly, especially if they're over 14 years of age, unmarried, what was the question I told you to ask them? What you're waiting for? I'm saying, if all you do in your life is the pursuit of happiness, if what you're seeking is freedom, if what you're seeking is to be free from all this tension, from all the hassle and all the frustrations and the annoyances of just getting through life, and all the duties that you have to fulfill, all the responsibilities, and also being put into this very tight and tough situations where you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, right? Whether you take a life or save a life, every day you find yourself in these situations. Do you give up your boyfriend or do you fight for him? Where you are always finding yourself in a situation where you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Why choose to live a life like that? Why settle for a life like that when there is an alternative? Before you heard these words, you didn't know about any of this, so you could be forgiven. But now you know. This is my first hand experience. I live such a free life. I may be actually twice as busy as you are, maybe 3 or 4 times as busy as you are, doing lots of things. My timetable is packed. I've got lots of things to do. But all of those things I choose to do. It's not fair for you to say, well, we choose to do as well, Swami Nuhansa. Really? Try not doing any of those things in your timetable and see what happens then. You have an 8 to 5. Try not doing that 8 to 5 a week and see what happens then. You know what I'm talking about. You don't have to do it for a week. 2 days straight and you're going to get a call. And they're going to introduce themselves to you as, hello, we're calling from HR. Why haven't you reported to duty? The first day they'll be, we're just concerned. We hope you're well. Is anything the problem? And you could say, no, I'm fine. I was just taking some time off. I just want to relax. I was just feeling a bit, bit overwhelmed with something. I'm going to be back soon. Right? So they'll say, right, okay, we'll inform your manager. Please be back for work tomorrow. Right? Try doing that for another 2 days. Don't. But can you imagine what might happen? A week in a row. Next time, what you're going to get is not a call. It's more likely going to be a letter. And in that letter, it'll probably have the words, "Thank you very much for your service to this state. You will receive your last paycheck in the post." So you can't tell me that you also choose to do the things that are on your list of things to do. See, I have a list of things I choose to do, whereas you have a list of things you must do. I have a list of things I'd like to do. You have a list of things you have to do. Agree or disagree? I know these words will fall on deaf ears for most people. But there may be someone out there, someone who's on the fence, someone who's undecided. I'm talking about you. Those deaf ears, it's everyone else. I'm talking about you. Today, you have the chance, a chance that you never had before, a chance you couldn't have wished for, not in your wildest dreams. Today, you have that chance. Today, you're young, you have youth on your side. You're free. You have been, you have, perhaps there'll be some among you who have your parents' blessings, and yet you can't make your mind up. God, how unlucky can some people be? It's a different word that came to mind, but I chose to go with unlucky. If you are looking for a life of suffering, then of course, be where you are. But if you're looking for a life of joy, as I'm saying, why if you really 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 enjoy your life as it is right now, just going through the regular run of the mill type stuff, why is it you look forward to that long weekend just as I used to do? And then you book yourself a little cottage somewhere in the greens, somewhere on the other side of the country. Why? What is the appeal? Isn't there something you lack so much? And when you have to return from those places, do you not leave part of your heart there? And you promise yourself, I'll be back, hopefully soon. Because isn't that where your heart is? Isn't that where your freedom is? Isn't that where your joy is? Do you not sometimes come back thinking, I'm walking back into a living hell? Excuse me. Do you know how many letters I receive on a daily, weekly basis from people who relate their stories, and they are stuck through duties, responsibilities, and obligations. Sometimes it's parents, sometimes it's children. Most of the time, it's one or the other. Sometimes it's both. And the other times it's a spouse. So, one of these three things, one or more of these three things. And if not for any of those three things, they'd be here. But there are those among you for whom children, not a problem, don't have any. Parents, not a problem, they've got enough to look after themselves. And they have perhaps even gone as far as said, Putha, is it, has it ever crossed your mind? Maybe, at least one day you might do us the honor of offering you to the Shasana? Maybe, maybe. and those who are unmarried, looking for a girlfriend. We know what a girlfriend is now, don't we? Looking for grief and fear so that life can be, within air quotes, enjoyed. I mean, it is. That's what we discussed last week. Right? Like, so we're going to segue right nicely back into our discussion from last week. After all, a girlfriend is that grief and fear. And of course, yes, there is pleasure. How? Well, those moments when you relieve yourself from fear and jump into grief. I'm not trying to bend your arm backwards here, folks. I'm 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 just I've I've got the best of what life can offer me. And I want to share this with you. I'm not greedy and I want just all this for myself. And I don't, I hope no one thinks, Swami Nwaze got into trouble. So now he's just calling us also, right? He realizes he made the worst mistake of his life and now he's only trying to make himself feel better by inviting others to come and fall into the same pit. Please don't even think like that, because that would be quite bad. If you could look through my eyes and into my heart and how I feel about each of these words as I beckon you, as I call you, as I invite you to come into this oasis, to walk into this paradise. If only you could realize that. If only you could really experience, you could really feel how I feel about you, about what I'm saying to you, about how I feel about you. If only. So, once again, do consider, for as long as you're alive, for as long as, we can accept you, because there is always criteria that has to be met. There are rules of conduct that we have to strictly abide by. There are stipulations that have been laid down by the senior monks in the institutions that govern us. All that. So, for as long as you tick all those boxes, again, I appeal to your intelligence. I'd like to appeal to your intelligence. Do it while you still can. Assuming that our lifespan is 100 years, okay? Assuming that we can all live up to 100 years and that remains a constant, do you know that you can only die and be reborn 24 more times? 24 more times before the end of this Sambuddha Shasana. Why is that? Well, 24 times 100. You have 2,400. We have already consumed 2,500 years. Another 2,500 years to go. We have consumed, in fact, more than 2,500. That's why I say 2,400 years to go. If you are born and if you die and are reborn as a human, this is also assuming you're going to be reborn human and live a life of 100 years, then on the 24th occasion of your rebirth, you will be born into a world that is void of a Buddha. Not a Buddha in person. The world is already void of a Buddha in person. But there will be no Dhamma, there will be no Sangha, there will be no Nibbana. No one will know of it, no one will speak of it. Even if someone does, then that will all be distorted. "24 more times." For those among you who believe in rebirth, you know that 24, in the grand scheme of things, when we consider samsara, 24 is a very, very negligible, minuscule, tiny, infinitesimal number. 24 occasions of rebirth is what is nothing. When you have been reborn in samsara more times than the number of grains of sand in the bed of the river Ganges, and you have spent more time in samsara, in yawns, more yawns than the number of grains of sand in the bed of the river Ganges, then you know that 24 is a very, very small number. It'll be gone in a flash. And even that, you have to be reborn in a time and a place where the Buddha's teaching prevails. I imagine most of you will be above 20s, right? Maybe in the 20s to 60s age region, I imagine. I'm just assuming, but let's imagine that. Right? So would it not be fair to say that most of you came across these teachings, which today, you're listening to these sermons because you agree that here we discuss the true teaching of the Buddha, right? So would you not agree that this teaching you came across quite late in your life? Speaking for myself, about 25 odd years into my life, with a life expectancy of 75, that's 1/3 of my life gone. Before I came across the Dhamma. Now imagine, you've got to go through this all over again if you miss it on this chance, this opportunity. Excuse me. What if you're born into a country where it's forbidden to practice anything but the religion of that country, and that religion is not Buddhism? What if excuse me, what if you're born into a community who are indoctrined that Buddhism is not even a true philosophy, it's just a gimmick, it's just a joke? What if you are born into a family of non-believers? So you don't believe in anything. There's no such thing as a God. There's no such thing as a Buddha. There's no such thing as a religion or any, life after this or karma. Nothing like that. It's just, we live and we die, and that's it. What if you're reborn into that? Then what are you going to have to say? All of these are possibilities, right? What if you're born dead poor or filthy rich? And either because you're far too poor to spend any amount of your time pursuing higher aims and goals and greater things in life, and all you're busy is trying to find something to keep you out of hunger for the night, or you are born into the lap of luxury and, as I said, filthy rich, that you fall, the crowd that associate with you, you are completely isolated from the realities of the world. You don't see suffering, you don't experience any of that, you don't see how or why people need to seek an answer to the problem of existence. What if you're born into those circumstances? What if you're born deaf? What if you die young? What if you fall into ignoble association? All these things, to try and avoid them from happening in the next 2,500 years, in other words, in the next 24 rebirths, does it not sound like a whim? Does that even sound possible? Does that even sound feasible? Does it not sound more like a dream? That's what I'm saying. Again, my point here being, folks, while you have it, make use of it. While you have it, make use of it. It's not going to be there forever. So think about that. I just wanted to share with you what I enjoy today and how life has been so kind to me. And I still am baffled by what merit might I have done to be where I am today, to be with the people I am today, to be not just among the monks that I'm with today or the Anagarikas, but also yourselves, a bunch of devotees who, are like no other. All you want is the same that I want. Kind, generous, gentle. All the testimonies we've read so far prove that, didn't it? How you have brought along with you the very people that you're with today. So people who are on this sermon, listening in, one of you would have invited the other. So this has always been like that. That's why, even with the Dhamma being so pure and so true, You know, how many people do you think listen to one of these sermons on a weekly basis? I'm saying, that is not a disappointment for me because I don't expect people to listen to the sermon. I Because that again would be an expectation. I do my duty, but just think about it. If you go on YouTube, right, folks, and just hit some random video, some something that's trending, something that's hot, right, and there'll probably be some kind of some joke or something that is controversial. Someone has said something, or maybe just two people having a fight, or just two people just having a go at each other, an argument, a debate, or someone's done something terrible and that's just come to light, right? And those videos, they get views in not the tens, not the hundreds, but not even the thousands, in the millions, right? Someone's committed debauchery. Someone's committed rape, murder, theft, or someone's learned some gossip about somebody else and they've made a video about it and posted it. How many views do those things get? In the millions. But there's a sermon out there somewhere, and it's talking about the pure truth. It's talking about the Dhamma. It's talking about the real answer to the real problem. How many views? I'll be surprised if we get 50, 100 views on these sermons. I don't know. I never look at the numbers because that is not my. I really don't. It's not something I'm worried about. Not something I'm concerned with because I do my duty. Yeah, these sermons probably get what, 50 views, if that, probably something like that. I imagine 50. Maybe if you leave it for a month or so, perhaps 100 views, maybe something like that. I don't expect any more than that. But what about all those trending videos? Either it's a sexual intoxication attempt to do so, or something to spread malice and anger and hatred into the hearts of people. How many views do those videos get? How many views? Hundreds of thousands and in the millions. How many comments do they get? How many likes do they get? Do you see how the world works? This is the way it is. I'm not saying let's all change it because this is the way it is. Appakate manusesu. Very, 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 very few people will ever listen to these words in their lifetime, let alone heed these words. That's what I'm saying. Today, I get to live with people like yourselves, be with people like yourselves, associate people like yourselves. I live in a very close community today. Very limited people come in to my life, and long may that be. It's fine, just the way it is. Of course, if anyone needs help, then I'm always there. But I live among people whose values, whose virtues are very similar to mine. Mutual respect, care, affection, kind, gentle, compassionate, helping others in times of need, always there to willingly lend a hand. never misses a sermon, and most of all, practices what we preach. So that's a very small community, and that's fine. As far as I'm concerned, that's fine. But if you think about the grand scheme of things, if you think about all those people who are out there who will never listen to these sermons, how much are they missing out on? Someone who's listening in brand new to this sermon might think of himself, God, he's blowing his own trumpet, isn't he? It's easy to think that way. And who am I to say you are wrong to think that way, sir? Because it just sounds so obnoxious, doesn't it? He's blowing his own trumpet. He's saying, more people should listen to his sermon, and what about all those people who are missing out because they can't listen to his sermon? That's how some people will think, some people will feel. But as I'm saying, if only you could see through my eyes into my heart, and the sentiments with which I share these thoughts with you, you shall understand that I mean nothing other than the best for all of them. So, some of you who will have listened to this will think to yourself, Swamin's has got a point. I should try and think about that again and more like that. Good. Well done. Some of you will think to yourself, waste of time. I thought today we were going to continue where we left off last week. I was just looking for the Dhamma. What's all this nonsense? Swaminathan is talking about monk life and going forth and all this. What a waste of time. I should have just done my overtime this weekend. Some will can feel that way. And then there will still be others. Maybe one, maybe two, maybe it's just you who feels, actually, high time I made a decision with my life. How much longer can I keep putting this back? What is the point of putting this back? If there's something good that is due to happen to your life, folks, when would you like that to happen? Today or tomorrow? Something good, something great is due to happen to you. When would you like that to happen? Today, tomorrow, the day after, in a year's time? If you were to ask me that question, I'd say, if something good is to happen to me, I would like for that to happen to me yesterday. Even today is too late. Even the geckos agree with me. So please think about it. Okay? Think about it. None of this is made up. None of the above, none of all those experiences in my life and how I feel about this. This is all from the bottom of my heart. I mean it, every word of it. The joy that I feel, the freedom that I experience, it's just mind blowing. Compared to where I used to be, what I used to do, compared to what I thought freedom and happiness were, and then today to be presented with something completely and entirely different, and yet today to realize that actually this is what true freedom and true happiness is all about. Plenty times I feel I wasted 25 odd years of my life, but then hey ho, those were lives, those years were what brought me here today. So I can't really say I wish they never happened, because that would not be fair for me to say that. But at the same time, I wish this happened earlier for me. But again, I know that that is not how things are meant to be. Because in a world that is determined and orchestrated and organized to the principle of cause and effect, then I can only imagine today that for the effect that is for me to be here today to manifest, then all those causes were what came one after the other back in my lay life. So for 25 long years, it were the causes lining themselves up to bring me the product that I enjoy today. And that may be the case for you too, but I hope that those causes line up for you as soon as they possibly can. Remember, we only have half time left. Actually, less than that. So let's not forget that. Now, I'll keep true to my word. Let's go back to where we left off last week and see if we can make some progress. Let's see if I can get the whiteboard up again. So can you all see that? Yes. Yes. Okay. So this is what we discussed last week, isn't it? I know it's a lot. But I'm just going to leave this up on screen here for you to for it to ring a few bells and just juggle your memory. A quick whistle stop tour. Remember we talked about time, friend, for that, all that question, and why it's a difficult answer to come up with. It's a different question. It's a difficult question to come up with a difficult and easy answer. We revisited some of the examples that were discussed, right? Like a mother waiting for her child, for her son at the airport, and then being informed several times that the journey is just not going to happen. And then we talked about, well, is that going to leave her in fear or in grief? And then we discussed, well, is it really the son that has anything to do with this fear and grief, or really is it more that she wants to be with her son, which is the source of her fear and her grief? We talked about what grief is and what fear is, and how fear can be thought in terms of the what if something happens. Right? And so we discussed how joy that is experienced at this fine moment here, which is that jump between somewhere almost in the middle of the jump between grief and fear, is that moment of joy that people feel, people experience. That is what people call pleasure, and it is the pursuit of pleasure that keep people bound to this samsara. Coming down here, we talked about happiness, right? And also, I remember asking the question, if happiness were a possibility, and if 100% happiness is a possibility, would you settle for 75? And I think that's where we came up with this example of a chocolate bar. If it says on the packing, best if consumed within 10 days, and that's when it's 100% taste, flavor, right? Would you wait for 10 days to pass and only enjoy it 60%? And I think we can agree that we all agreed on a no, as in we'd want to consume it within the 10 days because we paid money for that thing, right? And if it can offer me 100%, then I want that 100%. Then we talked about this, and I have got the foggiest idea what this is all about. It's a house and IP. What's this about? Giving an IP address to a home network, something? No, that would have been my old life talking about networks. What's all this about? IP, inspector of police, IP address, independent person. Pass. I'll pass. How about that? Pardon the pun. Oh yeah, and we talked about this. Our little friend here, right? Slap, pat, slap. Would you wish for a pat if you only got that in between two slaps? Ask this question, I remember. Right? And then here, if you were to invite pleasure into your home, Would you be happy with the fact that they'd be escorted by grief and fear and not the other way around? So you'd have to allow grief and fear to walk in first, and then pleasure would walk in after them. Would you be okay with that? These are, good questions, interesting questions that I posed to you, and hopefully you've given it some thought. This is not a simply, oh yeah, yeah, Swami, yeah, that's what we talked about, Swami. Yeah, that's right, Swami. Yeah, that's what we talked about. Yeah, yeah, you're right, Swami. That's what we talked about. This is not for that. This is for, if you didn't think about these things, well, at least now, right? And we talked about expectation, and hope. Oh yes, and this is about a Christmas tree and Christmas Eve. I remember, right? If expectation is and hope is what keeps people alive, and we think of that as being 100% energy, 100% positive energy, that cannot be true. We discussed why, because, well, then if something's 100%, and if it's 100% pleasure, 100% good stuff, then more of that cannot do you any harm. So then we ask the question, what if it was like Groundhog Day, where every day is Christmas Eve, and you'd never get to open those presents? Then you'd just be living in expectation and never fulfillment of that expectation. In other words, relieve from the tension of that expectation, right? So we talked about that, and we talked about, what's this? What's a sausage doing in a bathtub? I have, and I don't have any idea. And I think this was a fire ambulance, and it's got a nose. So we had a fire ambulance with a nose. Oh yes, yes. It's not a sausage in a bathtub. It's a car that's fallen into a pit, and this is smoke coming out of it. Right? Yes, I remember now. So this is a fire ambulance, and getting to the point of the incident as soon as possible to try and either put out the fire or stop the car from blowing up and try and save any alive passengers. I was all again to do with the question, is time your friend or is time foe? Interesting, that looks like a sausage. And then we talked about, yes, your girlfriend. G is for what? Girl, and F is for friend? Not quite. Now we know that G is for grief and F is for fear, because that is what you get with a girlfriend. Right? So we discussed all this. And this here is, oh yes, this was about, you get whipped and you get hit. I think that was just before we talked about the slap, pat, slap. You get whipped by grief and you get hit by fear. So grief has a whip, and fear is represented by a stick, and pleasure is that moment between the whip, the cracking of the whip, and the whacking of the stick, right? So that is what we experience as pleasure. And who here would like that? Was the question we asked. And I asked you to go and stand in front of a mirror and ask yourself the question, is this the life that you have chosen to live? Is this the life that, if your parents would have known all of this, is this the life that they would have wanted you to live? Is this the life you want your children to live? A life of a fleeting moment of extremely temporary, extremely momentary relief of vexation, which we call pleasure, but sandwiched between the torment of grief and the misery of fear? This is a question to ask ourselves. So that was that. Where do we go from here? Let's continue the story. See if I can get myself some room. So we talked about time, And you will also recall when we had this discussion about time, um, I asked you the question: have you ever seen a clock in your dreams, or a watch? And yes, there may be the odd one among you who might have seen that, but I never recall. I just don't recall ever seeing a clock or a watch in my dreams. And I believe most of you would be the same. I've never seen a timepiece in my dreams, no grandfather clocks or anything like that. And even if there were a grandfather clock, you never would have been able to read the time on that clock. Reason for that being, time is not a dimension that is relevant in the dream world, right? It's not a relevant dimension. You have length, you have breadth, you have width. So you have a three-dimensional world even in your dreams, but certainly not the fourth dimension of time. And for someone who lives in fear and grief, that's that's a God-given gift. A place where the construct of time does not bother them, isn't it? So therefore, people would prefer, I imagine, a world where there was no times, a world where we were not all driven by the two hands on a clock. Because right now you are driven by time, aren't you? There's a time when you have to sit down to watch this sermon, and there's a time when you'll have to walk up and leave. Even if the sermon continues on from that time, well, you have tomorrow to get ready for. So you'll have to get up and leave. You'll have a time to get on the bus. You'll have a time to wake up in the morning. You'll have a time to plug the rice cooker, make your tea, wash your dishes and your clothes, and pay the bills, and the rest of it. So what if time was not, if time didn't exist, then all these things in your life that are driven, orchestrated, manipulated by time, they'd all become, well, you'd be the master. So you would then be able to decide, well, you can't say when, because of course you have no time, but you could decide, I suppose, the sequence in which you do them, and if you do them at all. So therefore, going back to our mother who's waiting for um, her son at the airport. Remember, she was given, what was it, 3 weeks and 2 days, something like that, or 2 weeks and 3 days. Matters not really. So if she was told by her son that I'm going to be with you for 2 weeks and 3 days, right? And so now she waits for her son to arrive. You see, if time did not exist, then she would not have to wait for 2 weeks and 3 days for her son to arrive. If the son were to imagine, the son said, I'm going to be with you. Or actually, that's what I remember now. I'm going to be with you in. I'm just going to get that off the board. That's not what we discussed. Just in the interest of continuation from what we talked about, I'm just going to copy this across. So that was 3 days and 2 weeks, wasn't it? That's what it was. Almost forgot. Let's copy. Okay, it's quite neat that you can do this. And paste. Okay. 2 weeks and 3 days. And I think 5 years is how long he's been away from home, right? We don't need that bit. We don't need. We don't need. We don't need any of that, right? Okay. Okay. So that's where we are. So the son has been away for 5 years, and you can go. You can go as well. Don't need you, right? So 5 years is how long the son has been away. He rings his mother and says, "I'm gonna be with you in 3 days' time." So mother waits for 3 days, right? And he's with her for 2 weeks. Now, I'm not going to go over this in any detail because we've already done that twice or thrice now. But what if time didn't exist? Then she wouldn't have 3 days to wait, because this 3 days would not exist, and 2 weeks would not exist. So really, she would prefer for time to not be a barrier between her uniting with her son and being with him. But right now, time is what keeps him away from her, and time is what takes him away from her. Okay? So, is there a world in which she could be without the construct of time? A world in which she could be unaffected by time? Is there such a world? Is there such a place? Is there such a thing, or such an existence where you can be unaffected by time? Well, as it happens, there is, and that is what we know is our dream world. In our dreams, we don't have time. We are not confined by time. We are not ridden by a time. We're not. Our lives are not determined by the constructs of time. That is why in your dreams you can say, for instance, you if you've been dreaming about being, or let's say you want to be with your better half, and she's away or he's away in some other country, and you know that she's going to come down in another 3 days or whenever, in your sleep. So this mother, right, in our example, ever since her son told her, and actually even before that, would she not dream of her son being with her? In her dreams she would be with her son many times. And even when the son has said, "I'm going to be with you in 3 days," right? From that day on, especially, she's going to start having dreams of her son. So in her dreams, those 3 days disappear. And what happens? Her son is brought to her. So what's happened for her son to come to her? The 3 days, which is the barrier, the time barrier between her and her son, has to disappear. So that is what has happened in her dreams. So really, people like dreaming, because in their dreams, you are not restricted by the construct of time. Now, so what are we going to do about it? Do we need to dream more, or do we need to dream less, or what should we do about that? Well, really, the answer is there's nothing we need to do about that. So why am I talking about it? I'm talking about it because it's not dreams that I have a worry or a concern with. It's something that is quite similar to dreams. But I've talked about dreams because you know how it works. So, what's similar to dreams? What's similar to dreams is indulgence in a sensual world, right? When you dip your toes into this sensual world, actually, I wanted to switch something on last time, and I forgot to do that. Let's try this. That didn't do much, but anyway. So if you wanted to dip your toes into a sensual world, and we can all dip our toes into a sensual world whenever we like, right? I mean, talk about dipping our toes into it. Some people go and skinny dip into the sensual world. Some people go and bathe in it. Some people go and surf in it. Some people go and just deep dive into a sensual world. Now, what's the similarity between a sensual world and a dream world? The similarity is there are no clocks, neither in the dream world nor in the sensual world. So the time constraint is removed. Again, please understand that this is not just a theoretical uh, treatise on time or any of that. This is all focused on Nibbana. And I'm trying to show you the path. I'm trying to show you how this is all connected to our salvation. This is what we refer to as the karma world, right, or the sensual world. In Pali, it's called the karma world, the karma sphere. I remove the word sphere because that refers to place of existence, but rather, I'm talking about, it's not necessarily the sphere or where you could be reborn as a human or a deva or a being in the four hells, but rather I'm talking about the sensual world that is constructed in the mind of a person, in a sensual world. I recall some examples from last time I asked you this question, and I'll bring them back again. So see if you can think of some answers. Right? There are things in life that you enjoy a lot, right? And most of them will be in the sensual world. So, for instance, there'll be certain foods that you like to eat. Yeah. There'll be sights that you'd like to see. There'll be sounds that you like to hear. There'll be smells that you'd like to experience. There'll, of course, be tastes. I know food is not really one on the list, but I think food pretty much covers all of this. So, sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. Right? So, whether it's food or clothes or right perfumes or whatever, etc., 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 ultimately they'll all come into one or more of these five sensations. Remember, they're sensations because they're all in the sensual world. So, in the sensual world, these things can be experienced without the hassle of being time bound. Isn't that so? Let's take an example of food, for instance, right? If I, now you're all wide awake, right? No one's dreaming, surely. Okay, so that's obvious. So if I were to say, uh, think about your favorite food item. Okay, now for some it'll be maybe rice and curry, maybe, I mean, who knows, right? It's just so diverse. I'll take the very common uh, pizza. I know not everyone likes pizza, but I'm just going to go with pizza. It's just such a popular food in these days and times. So, pizza. The moment I say pizza, folks, one thing I can be sure of is not every one of you will have thought of the same pizza. Some of you will be thinking, let's say, pepperoni. Some of you will be thinking pineapple. Some of you will be thinking chicken. Some will be thinking, oh, I can't remember now, mushrooms, right? Can't remember the last time I had a pizza, so I can't remember. Right? Sausage from our previous video. Right? So you'll be thinking of various ones from this list. Oh, of course, we have cheese and tomato. Mustn't forget. So why is it when I just said the word pizza, one of these sprung to mind? You're not dreaming right now, right? You're all wide awake. But the moment I say pizza, your favorite pizza comes to mind. Yes or no? And isn't that why your mouth started watering? I, let's assume that none of you like uh, pizza that has only one topping, and that is broccoli. A broccoli pizza. Okay, no one likes a broccoli pizza. I'm assuming. I don't know if they actually do one, and it may be that one of you is ready to die for it, and in which case, I beg your pardon. So, broccoli pizza. If that were to come to mind, would you be salivating right now? Would you even, you'd probably say, Swaminatha, please, do we have to talk about pizza? I just hate it. You might even say that because no one likes a broccoli pizza. But when I say pizza, it's one of these that come to mind. One of the above comes to mind. But as I said, I'm sure as anything that if there are, let's say, 50 of you listening to this sermon right now, not all of you will be thinking of the same pizza. Right? It may be that 5 of you are thinking about pepperoni pizza, 10 of you are thinking about whatever that is. Another 5 of you will be thinking about cheese. Some of you will be thinking about this, some of you think about this, and maybe none of you are thinking about this. But maybe someone who watches this sermon later on, but not in the live sermon, the moment I say pizza, they think about this cheese and tomato. So, how is it? How is it that this is different? And where do these things come from? Why did you think about pepperoni pizza and you didn't think about chicken pizza? Why is that? Where did it come from? Where do they all come from? Where do they all belong? In the words of Paul McCartney. It's not in your dreams because you're not dreaming right now. But although, in your dreams, you're probably, if you ever dreamt of pizza, you probably dreamt of your favorite pizza. But now you're not dreaming. So where's this pizza coming to mind? When all I said was pizza, really, if I say when I say pizza, what should really come into your mind, if at all, is a blank pizza with no toppings. Because ultimately pizza is just dough. And that's all that should come to your mind. Should be something like this. How many slices do they have on a pizza? 8, is it? Has that changed now? I don't know. That should all be what comes to mind. You should not have cheese on it. You should not have uh, what do they have? Anchovies on it, or pineapple on it, or tomato on it, or mushrooms on it, or garlic on it, or I don't know, whatever on it. You should not have any of those things because all I said was pizza. I never said chicken pizza. I didn't say pineapple pizza. I didn't say sausage pizza. I didn't say any of those things. I just said pizza. But the pizza in your mind right now is one of these things, isn't it? Explain yourself. Explain that to me. See, that is the sensual world. Where did that come from? That came from the sensual world. And where is that world? How many light years away from the Milky Way? No, it's not that kind of world. It's the world that is created in the mind. That's the mind. The sensual world is created in the mind. So this box represents the mind. The sensual world is created in the mind. And so right now you're thinking pizza, okay? But next I say, how do you get rid of this? Oh yes, thank you. What if I say movie or film, and then your mind will immediately be flushed of the pizza, and in its stead you'll get something else. It will probably be, let's say, Jurassic Park, for those of you like that, or Avengers, or uh, I I don't know. I can't remember the last time I watched any movie, so I can't remember any of their names. Siddharth, right? How's that? So it could be one of these, and that comes to mind. Again, that's the sensual world. So it's this is again. I'll draw the circle here. That's the sensual world in your mind. This sensual world is created with every thought, because every sight, sound, smell, taste, or touch that comes to mind immediately with that, the sensual world is created in the mind. The moment you see a sight, hear a sound, experience a smell or a taste, or feel a touch, right? The sensual world is created in the mind. And what is it filled with? It's occupied with whatever sight, sound, smell, taste, or touch that was received from the outside. So I said pizza, remember that was a sound. You received that through your ears because I said the word and you heard me. So the moment I say that, this sound is received through your ears and you interpret the word pizza because all that is just pure intelligence. So all that happens, and this is Vachi Sankara, and so that is how words are interpreted and words are produced in the mind. But it's not the word that is important here, but rather what it what impression it leaves on the mind. So when you hear the word pizza, it brings with it a ton of stuff, and that is a pizza, of course, which is pulled from your memory bank. If that's your memory bag, that's all your memories, right? Moment I say pizza, a memory from your memory bag is pulled up into the mind to create this sensual world. And how many memories do you have? Countless, countless memories. Now, it may be that as I say pizza, the thought that comes to your mind is not necessarily pizza. That could also be the case. Perhaps the last time you went into a Pizza Hut or a pizza parlor, you got kicked out. Or maybe you just had a very bad experience. Maybe uh, when I say pizza, what comes to mind is your girlfriend because you only go to the pizza to have pizza with your girlfriend. So, the moment I say pizza, it's actually girlfriend that comes to mind. Unlikely, usually it's a pizza, but whatever is associated with that word that just came to your mind, with that thought that just came to your mind, whatever is associated with that rises to the surface in this memory bag. So that this bag is full of an infinite number of quantity of stuff, and so it's kind of like almost always churning inside, right? Various things rising to the surface and then going back down again. Excuse me. But when the right word is triggered, then something rises to the surface. So usually when I say pizza, then it's a pizza that rises to the surface. But you have had all sorts of pizza in your life. Why is it that it's the chicken pizza that comes to mind when I say pizza? That's an interesting question also. Why is it chicken pizza when actually you've had your mushroom pizza, you've had your sausage pizza, you've had your cheese and tomato pizza, you've had your pepperoni pizzas, right? Why is it chicken pizza that comes to mind when I say pizza? All I said was pizza. And for someone else, why is it pepperoni pizza? Why is it sausage pizza? Why is that the case? Is it because that's all you've ever had in your life? Have you never had any other pizza in your life? No, it's not true. You've had all sorts. So why is it that particular one? Well, the reason for that is because that is what surfaces. This bag is full of stuff. It's just full of all garbage. Your memories are essentially it's just a full of bag of garbage, stuff from the past. But what surfaces is what is most relevant, what is most closely associated with the item that just got mentioned. And this happens incredibly fast. Incredibly fast. If you know what I'm talking about, it will be impossible for you to judge or gauge or even measure how long it takes you to really understand what I'm saying. Let me repeat myself. If you know what I'm talking about, you would fail to measure how long it takes for you to understand what I have said. If you know what I'm talking about, if you don't know what I'm talking about, then yes, that you need to piece that whole thing together. But if you know what I'm talking about, so as I say pizza, if you know what a pizza is, then in no time that pizza, which was somewhere down here perhaps, rises to the surface. Now, this is a very simplified way of trying to explain this concept. It's not literally rising to the surface, but I think for the purpose of this discussion and to help make things clear to you and easy to understand, I'm using this analogy. So it rises to the surface, and then this item that just rose to the surface is plugged into the mind, and that replaces whatever was there previously. So a new thought has arisen, because we know thoughts arise and pass away, and with the new thought, then this little item, the pizza, and in your case, the chicken pizza, has replaced what was in there before. So that is how the sensual world is created. Now, why is it chicken pizza? It's chicken pizza because that is the pizza that you hold dear and close to your heart. That is the pizza that you like the most. That is your favorite. How does something become a favorite? To become a favorite, it has to be the one that is upadan, or clinging. How does one become upadan? That is what has been tanha, or attachment. So, how does something become attached to? So, how does something become clung to, and how does something become attached to? So, that is avidya, meaning ignorance. So, what does all this mean? What this means is, folks, let me put it this way, and you'll think you'll find it really funny, you'll find it really humbling, and also you'll find it very uh, what's the word? You'll find it very um, humiliating, I suppose. And what is that? The pizza that rises to the top and comes in to create the sensual world is the pizza that you know least about. I'll say that again. The pizza that rises to the surface out of this bag and comes in to fill and create that sensual world is the pizza that you know least about. Sorry, so I'm going to ask you, did you say least about? You meant to say most about. Oh no. I was very mindful about what I just said. The pizza that you know least about. Why do I say that? Why do I say it's the pizza that you know least about? When surely we're talking about your favorite pizza. If it's your favorite pizza, how can you know least about it? Surely that's the one you have every day when you walk into the pizza parlor. You have felt everything, right from how the cheese melts in your mouth to, oh, we're talking about chicken, right? Okay, so it's still got a cheese base. And how the tenderness of the chicken pieces, and whether they're baked or they're fried or they're cooked or whatever, and how much sauce it comes with, whether it comes with ketchup or whether it's chili sauce or tomato sauce, or right, it inside out. So how is it that then Swami Nuhansa can say that this is the pizza that you know least about? That is your homework. What is your homework? See if you can figure out why I say the pizza that comes into your mind to create this sensual world. When I say the word pizza, remember it was one of the out of the list on the top right hand corner there, right? The one that comes to mind to fill in to create the sensual world is the pizza that you know least about. And why do I say that when we have already discussed and agreed that it is your most favorite pizza? It's the one that you love, that you really cling on to, the one that you're attached to. So how come it is the one that you learn least about? That, folks, is homework for you. To which question we will find an answer next week. I'm pretty sure that you should, I've already given some hints. So you should be able to work that out, I'm sure. But, I like for you to, I'm sure you like a bit of a challenge from time to time, don't you, as well? Something to keep you interested, something to keep you on your toes. So think about what your answer might be. You're welcome to submit your answers, and I'll find it interesting to see what answers you might come up with. That is also perfectly fine. And please don't throw your answers into the chat box right now, because it would be nice to give everyone a chance to work through this piece of homework, right? So fine, one more time. What is the question I'm asking you? We talked about the sensual world, right? A world in where time does not prevail, and we are not confined by the constraints and restrictions of time, because there is no, why do I say that? Because I say pizza, and pizza is in your mind already. It didn't take you the time it takes Pizza Hut to bake that pizza and to put it on the back of that motorbike, on that scooter, and send it to you with the delivery driver. It didn't, that takes at least 20, 30, 40, 50, an hour, minutes, or an hour, right? But the moment I say pizza, that pizza is already in your hands, right? And it's right in front of your face, ready to be swallowed, ready to be lapped up, right? So that's why I say time is not a dimension in the sensual world. That is why we like to live in the sensual world just as much as that is why we like to dream, because the constraint of time is completely removed, and it is void, null and void. So that we understand that bit. But then the question again is, finally, one last time, when I say pizza, the pizza that comes to your mind is different for each and every one of you, right? And we talked about the reason for that, and that is because it depends on what is your favorite pizza, which one you like most. That's why none of you have broccoli pizza in your mind. And then we discussed why is that the favorite, because the favorite is what you're clinging on to. And why is it that you're the one you're clinging on to? That's because of attachment. And why attachment? That is because of ignorance. So finally, all I'm telling you is, and what I'm posing to you as a question is, I'm now saying that the pizza that comes into your mind is not only your most favorite pizza, but it's also the pizza that you know the least about. That is the pizza that you know least about. Not most about, least about. Find out the answer to that and let me know next week. As I said, you're welcome to submit your answers on an email should you have the time to do so, but no hard feelings if you don't. Just think to yourself and see if you can find an answer. And by all means, you can discuss it among your family, because, well, I think you already know that, and I think you already do that. Hopefully, it's always a good habit to get into. I think we talked about this in one of the singular sermons. Why it's always a good thing to share what you have learned at the end of the sermon with the rest of your family members, where, of course, it is encouraged, and there is, um, it is acceptable. I know in some homes it is not acceptable, so we don't want to push the boundaries, but where it is okay, where it is acceptable, where particularly everyone gets around the living room and sits on the sofa and starts listening to the sermon, then of course you can do that. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with that for today, folks. So we discussed, going back from last week, we talked about time. That's where we left off, right? And we did a quick whistle stop tour of all those things. And then we continued the discussion. And we are right now here. And I'm leaving you with a question. And we'll continue the discussion next week on from there. Okay, right. So let us take a moment then to transfer merits. And we'll bring the sermon to a close for today. Okay, so let us take a moment then to transfer the merits which we have all acquired by making offerings to the infinite virtues of the Noble Triple Gem and chanting Pirit, listening to the Dhamma and engaging in various meritorious deeds today. First and foremost, let us remind ourselves how incredibly fortunate we are to be in receipt of the Lord Buddha's teaching. And with immense gratitude, let us transfer these merits to the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, upasakas and upasikas, who have since time immemorial protected and preserved the sublime teachings of the Buddha and passed it down through the generations of the noble lineage in the form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study, understand, and comprehend the Dhamma. Let us also transfer the merits we have acquired to all members of the Mahasangha present throughout the world, including the chief pillars of all the chapters, who have dedicated their lives to the noble path and have committed themselves towards the betterment of all sentient beings. Let us not forget that among them are the monks and nuns resident in your local temples and nunneries, who have always been by your side through thick and thin, come rain or shine. And let us also transfer these merits to Guru Swami Mahansa and all other monks resident at the monastery, as well as the Anagarikas and Anagarikas attached to the monastery. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits and express our gratitude to those who make great efforts to disseminate the teachings of the Buddha, be that by transliterating these sermons, sharing them out with others, or inviting others to join them. And may, through the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in the woeful plane, redeem themselves and be born in the blissful plane. And may, through the power of these merits, they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also transfer these merits that we have acquired to our devotees and friends of the monastery, who, for the sake of merits, continue to sustain the Mahasangha. And this includes everyone from those of you who have contributed to the construction of the monastery, to those of you who have provided the Mahasangha with shelter, arms, ropes, and medicines, as well as those of you who have passed on their know-how and extended their well wishes, and of course, continue to do so. And may, through the power of these merits, they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to our mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, our sons and daughters and grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews and nieces, our elders, friends and acquaintances, employers and employees, and to all those who have helped us, supported us, assisted us in any way, shape, or form. And may, by the power of these merits, they be healed of any physical and mental ailments and overcome any obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to the Devas and Brahmas, spirits and demons, primarily the Sakadeva, as well as all the numerous gods and deities who are committed to protect and fulfill the Samudashasana. Let us also transfer merits to our guardian deities who keep a watchful eye over us and keep us out of harm's way. And may, by the power of these merits, they prosper in divine power and wisdom. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to our ancestors who have predeceased us, to all who have been our families, friends, and acquaintances in this infinitely long journey in samsara, and who have helped us and supported us and assisted us. Let us also transfer merits to the members of the armed forces as well as the police force who have sacrificed their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation and continue to do so. And may all who have lost their lives in the war, be their friend or foe, rejoice in the merits that we have acquired today. Let us also transfer merits to all those who have lost their lives in the natural calamities such as the tsunamis and earthquakes, landslides and the pandemics, reminding ourselves that among them will be those who have been friends and family to us in this infinitely long journey in samsara. Let us take a moment to transfer merits to them, and may, through the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in woeful planes, redeem themselves and be born in the blissful plane. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Finally, let us all resolve that may, through the blessings and power of all the merits that we have acquired throughout the day, we be able to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of arahants in this blessed land. And finally, may, through the power of all the merits we have acquired today, you and I, and everyone who has helped make this program a success, become an Arahatun Mahanse or Arahat Mehenin Mahanse in this very life itself and in the era of the Gautama Supreme Buddha itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Ladies and gentlemen, on that note, we will conclude today's sermon. May the blessings of the Noble Telugu Gem be with you all forever.